Friday, October 14, 2022, in Paris, in the 19th district, on Monan Street. Delphine and Zohan Daviet dialed 17, the French emergency number. Their 12-year-old daughter, Lola, hadn't come home from school. And yet, the building's security cameras, for which Zohan is the caretaker, didn't lie. At precisely 3:17 p.m., Lola was spotted. A pink bag, perfect braids, a shy smile. She went through the security door. But she wasn't alone. A woman was with her. A gray sweatshirt, white pants, a blank stare. 97 minutes later, 4:48 p.m., this same woman came out again. Alone. She was dragging 2 carry-on suitcases and a large black plastic trunk. She was struggling. She was sweating. She was straining. The police held their breath. The theory? Kidnapping. The investigation was launched. But just a few hours later, around midnight, a homeless man alerted the police. In the building's courtyard, there were 2 suitcases, and that same black trunk. The trunk emitted the smell of bleach and blood. The police arrived. They opened the trunk and found inside the body of a little girl, wrapped in a blanket, her head taped shut, her throat slit, and, under her bare feet, written in bright red, a 0 under one, a 1 under the other. It's Lola. Lola, who should have been home at 3 p.m., eating Nutella crepes. Lola, who will never make it to her parents' apartment. A story that begins like an ordinary afternoon and ends in an absolute nightmare. Surveillance videos and various witness statements from local residents have allowed investigators to identify the main suspect who appears in the videos, Dahbia Benkired, a 24-year-old Algerian woman at the time of the events, residing illegally in France and under an order to leave French territory, OQTF, since 2021. In this new video, I'd like to revisit this heinous, senseless, barbaric crime that shattered a family, shook the entire nation of France, and generated countless tears and countless articles. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos, like to support us, and turn on notifications, and let's get started. Let's start with the light. Lola Daviet. Born on July 18, 2010, in Béthune, Pas-de-Calais, this girl is a ray of sunshine. At 12 years old, she recently moved to Paris, to a council flat on Monan Street, in the 19th district, where her parents, Delphine and Zohan, are caretakers. A modest, close-knit family, Mom Delphine, a loving caregiver, Dad Zohan, a quiet but fragile rock, and Thibaut Daviet, the protective older brother who called her my darling little sister. Lola? A joyful whirlwind, sociable, strong-willed, with a character who doesn't let anyone push her around. She was cheerful, respectful, but she hated being told no. Her mother, Delphine, recounted at the trial, her eyes moist. A student at Zours-Brassens Junior High School, Lola loved gymnastics. She even wore a medal around her neck in family photos and weekends in Berck-sur-Mer, in the family mobile home, surrounded by fine sand and bursts of laughter. She binged TV series with Thibaut, braided her doll's hair, and dreamed of traveling. My darling, why so much cruelty towards you, so kind? Zohan wrote in a heartbreaking letter, read aloud at the trial. Innocent, mischievous, full of life. But on October 14, 2022, that life came to an abrupt end. And now, the other side of the coin. Dahbia Benkired, 24 years old at the time of the events, an Algerian national residing illegally in France, has been under an OQTF, obligation to leave French territory, since 2021. An obligation to leave France, ignored by the administration. Dahbia Benkired was born on April 12, 1998, in Algiers. According to her statements, she arrived in France in 2014 with her mother and two sisters when she was 15 or 16 years old. She had a student visa since 2016, which was not subsequently renewed. She, her mother, and her two sisters lived in a small apartment building in Brie-sur-Marne. At that time, she was attending school in Champigny-sur-Marne, a town near Val-de-Marne, at a comprehensive high school where she was studying for a vocational diploma in catering as part of a small class of about 15 students. In 2019, her father died in Algeria. The following year, in 2020, her mother died in France. Her sister told investigators that her younger sister had suffered a kind of depression after these deaths. Dahbia Benkired reportedly tried to get back on her feet. A vocational diploma holder in catering, she did not have a stable job. The young woman worked odd jobs, notably as a cleaner in a bar in 𝐿𝑜𝑙𝑎 𝐷𝑎ℎ. She had no fixed address. Her childhood was traumatic, alleged domestic violence, alleged, but unproven rapes, and extreme poverty. She spent her nights at friends' houses, at one of her sister's places in Blanc-Mesnil, Saint-Denis, at the homes of people she met at the bar where she worked, or at her other sister Friha's place in Paris, in the same building as the Daviet family. Her cannabis use gradually intensified. She was smoking up to 20 joints a day. She claimed to have been raped by her cousin and to have been forced into prostitution by her former partner and her aunt. Unemployed and consumed by cannabis and medication, she drifted into a world of chilling mysticism. Paranoid, she blamed invisible monsters, ex-partners, demons. During questioning, Friha described the chaotic life of her younger sister, who she said was difficult to integrate, a statement confirmed by those close to her. A video broadcast by BFM TV, dating from July 2019, shows Dahbia having an altercation with two secretaries in a Parisian doctor's office after refusing to pay for her medical consultation. The video speaks volumes about this woman's attitude and violent nature. In the footage, Dahbia can be seen after one of the secretaries confiscates her bag, saying it's driving her crazy. She makes threats, saying, "If I want to cause trouble, I'll do it right now, but to avoid trouble, I just want my bag back. You see, I'm being nice. You won't understand. I warned you, I have nothing to lose." Following this, one of the secretaries explains that she has just called the police. Dahbia became angry and struck one of the two medical secretaries, who apparently defended herself. There was an exchange of blows, and then, immediately after the altercation, she left, saying, "You don't know what I'm capable of." A doctor prescribed the medical secretary a total incapacity for work at the time. And yet, this secretary had lost her job for retaliating. Dahbia reportedly returned a few weeks later with a friend to pay for the consultation. On August 21, 2022, Dahbia Benkired was apprehended by border police as she attempted to board a plane. As a result, she was issued an order to leave French territory within 30 days. She had therefore been in the country illegally for 3 weeks at the time of the incident. Let's delve into the fateful moments of that day, reconstructed minute by minute thanks to CCTV footage, witness statements, and the details Dahbia Benkired provided to investigators. It's Friday, October 14, 2022. At 3 p.m., Zors Brassains College opens its doors, and students leave to go home. Among them is Lola Daviet. Lola only has 300 meters to walk to reach her home at number 119 Monan Street. At the same time, Dahbia Benkired is standing in front of the secure entrance of the building where Lola Daviet lives. She's squatting in the apartment of her sister, Friha Benkired, who lives on the 6th floor of that building. Dahbia is standing at the door because she doesn't have an access card. The building's security footage shows that Lola arrived at 3:11 p.m. Dahbia approaches her and explains that she's locked out because she left her card in her sister's apartment. Kind and trusting, as she was raised to help her neighbors, she opens the door with her own card. Dahbia crosses the threshold, and that's when the trap is sprung. Once inside, in the deserted lobby, Dahbia grabs Lola by the arm and forces her to go up to the 6th floor. Inside Freya's empty apartment, hell, Dahbia forces Lola to undress. She forced Lola Daviet to take a shower because of her period before raping her. During her police custody, she told investigators verbatim, "I did it with my fingers and hands. Everything I asked her to do, she did, until I came. I had an orgasm. I grabbed her by the hair, put her head between my legs, told her to do what she had to do, let her go, and then taped her." Dahbia then tortured Lola, slapping, strangling, and beating her. She taped Lola's mouth and her entire head shut, which ultimately caused the girl's death. The child was left naked and dying in the apartment's entrance. She dies of asphyxiation while her executioner listens to music so as not to hear her trembling. Afterward, Dahbia writes the number 0 under one of Lola's feet and 0 under the other. Lola is in agony, perhaps pleading, experts confirm, extreme anguish, without rapid loss of consciousness and defensive wounds all over. The young schoolgirl reportedly even received post-mortem blows to her shoulder and neck with sharp objects. Dahbia wraps Lola's body in a blanket and applies bleach all over. She then places the body in the infamous black trunk. At 4:48 p.m., surveillance videos captured Dahbia leaving. She is dressed differently and is struggling to carry a trunk and 2 carry-on suitcases. Once outside the residence, Dahbia Benkired began approaching random people in the street, asking for help carrying her 2 carry-on suitcases and the trunk, knowing that the trunk currently contained the body of little Lola Daviet. Afterward, she approached a young man on his way to meet his friends at 𝐿𝑜𝑙𝑎, a local cafe located a little further down at 107 Monan Street. She asked him to help her with her luggage to the subway. He recounts advising her to take a taxi, but, according to him, Dahbia told him she couldn't because she was carrying valuable merchandise in the trunk. Eventually, this man agreed to help her carry the luggage and the trunk, but only as far as the bar. He took the 2 suitcases, and Dahbia dragged the trunk. Once inside the cafe, the man found her increasingly mysterious. They chatted, and as the conversation progressed, he asked her what the trunk contained. Dahbia replied, "I sell human organs." Taken aback, the man decided to investigate. He put his hand inside the trunk and felt what resembled a human arm. He also smelled blood and bleach. Panicked, he fled and went to the police. It was thanks to this report that the police were able to find Dahbia. Dahbia's visit to the bar was captured on surveillance cameras and the video, showing her chatting casually in a bar next to the body of little Lola, whom she had just murdered, horrified the entire nation of France. Meanwhile, at 5:34 p.m., the 19th Precinct police station in Paris was alerted to Lola's disappearance. Zoan and Delphine had been searching for their daughter for over 2 hours. They went to Georges Brassens High School, where they were told she had left classes at 3 p.m. sharp. Zoan reviewed the surveillance footage and called the 19th Precinct police station. Delphine posted an Amber Alert on her Facebook account, including a description of her daughter's clothing, a photo of her, and a still from the CCTV footage showing Dahbia opening the building's door. At 6:03 p.m., Rashid Nasri, a 43-year-old man and former acquaintance of Dahbia, picked her up in his car. He loaded the luggage and trunk into his vehicle, and they drove to the Odessan neighborhood to Dahbia's home. They stayed there for over 4 hours, during which she took the opportunity to shower and change her clothes. Meanwhile, at 119 Manan Street, investigators found evidence that officially classified the case as a crime: tape, a box cutter, and traces of blood. For hours later, in the Odessan neighborhood, Dahbia asked Rashid Nasri to call her a rideshare because she wanted to go back to her sister Friha Benkired's house. In other words, she wanted to return to where she had murdered Lola and where Lola's family lived. A rideshare arrived around 10 p.m., and the trunk was loaded into the trunk without the driver being allowed to touch it. During the 10-kilometer ride, the driver told the police that he found Dahbia to be acting strangely, but rather relaxed and not stressed. She even chatted with the driver, asking him how his job was going and if he had any clients. According to the driver, what struck him most was that Dahbia insisted, almost like a child, on getting candy. You know, it's common practice in ride-hailing vehicles. You can have candy available. Except that she, for someone who had just committed murder, was acting like a child and desperately wanted candy. Once they arrived at the bottom of Building 119 on Manan Street, Dahbia made a brief phone call. The conversation was mostly in Arabic, but it ended with this phrase in French, according to the driver, and I quote, "Come down and help me, you fucking bitch." A few minutes later, Friha Benkired, Dahbia's sister, came down from the building. The driver helped the two women carry their luggage and the large trunk out and put them on the sidewalk. However, and this is really strange, Friha categorically refused to let him bring the trunk up to her apartment. Remember that the murder was committed at Friha's apartment, and there was also the smell of bleach. It's possible that, with all these elements and the commotion in the building with the investigators and the search, Friha realized what her sister had done. She then asked the driver to take Dahbia and her belongings back to where she came from. The driver refused and left. Dahbia was then left alone with the trunk and suitcases. It was there that Dahbia managed, with some difficulty, to leave the trunk and suitcases in the building's outdoor common areas. At 10:30 p.m., she called another acquaintance, a 32-year-old Algerian man named Amin. Dahbia went to meet him in 𝑤𝑜𝑚 so he could take her back to his place for the night. Later that evening, around 11:30 p.m., a homeless man alerted the police to the presence of two carry-on suitcases next to a plastic trunk containing a body concealed by fabric, bound and curled up. It was the body of Lola Daviet. Lola's parents were notified around 2 a.m., and you can imagine their grief. On Saturday, October 15th at 7:40 a.m., at Amin's home, Daviet was immediately taken into custody along with 5 others: Friha Benkired, Rashid Nasri, the homeless man who discovered the body, Amin, and his roommate. These 5 others were later released without charge. Later that same day, October 15th, forensic pathologists performed an autopsy on the body of young Lola. The forensic examination concluded that the young woman succumbed to cardiorespiratory failure with signs of asphyxia and cervical compression. While in police custody on Sunday, October 16, 2022, and fit to speak, Dahbia Benkired provided details to investigators. She clearly felt no involvement in the incident. She was shown CCTV footage of herself entering the building with Lola. Looking the officers directly in the eyes, she stated, "I asked her to follow me, to come with me to the elevator. I brought her back with me, I taped her, I killed her, and that's it." Investigators described the suspect as having shown no empathy for the victim, it was noted. "It doesn't bother me one way or the other," Dahbia Benkired reportedly told investigators when they showed her photos of Lola's body. "I was raped too, and I saw my parents die in front of me," she declared confidently. The document reviewed by AFP also mentions the unbelievable ease with which the act was committed, and such an extreme for such a trivial reason. Dahbia Benkired told investigators that she attacked the teenager after the latter's mother, Delphine Davai Ropital, refused to give her a pass to enter the building where she was staying with her sister, Friha. She claimed that she attacked young Lola to get revenge and took her to her sister's apartment, where she subjected her to horrific abuse until her death. Following her indictment on October 16, 2020, Dahbia Benkired was incarcerated, notably in a secure unit for difficult patients. According to the prosecutor's office, an initial psychiatric evaluation concluded that the accused did not suffer from any mental or neuropsychological disorder that abolished or impaired her judgment, even though from a social and not a psychiatric standpoint, her dangerousness warranted close attention. Two other doctors subsequently concluded that manipulative behaviors stemmed from a pathological personality or a strategy, and not from a major psychiatric disorder. On February 23, 2024, Zohan Daviet, Lola's father, died at the age of 49 from cardiac arrest. His head and heart were too close to hell since the events that befell his daughter. He was spiraling downward. His heart attack was the epilogue to this descent into hell, described Clotilde Loupouty, the Lola family's lawyer, at the time of the father's death, a father who died of grief. On Friday, October 17, 2025, Dahbia Benkired took her place in the dock of the Paris Assize Court. Before Judge 𝐿𝑜𝑙𝑎 𝐷𝑎𝑣𝑖𝑒𝑡, Dahbia Benkired recanted her confession. She contested the forensic findings. She denied inflicting any blows and downplayed the rape. The inscriptions 1 and 0 under the victim's feet? She doesn't really know why she did it. Dahbia Benkired offered a new explanation for Lola's murder, one she hadn't uttered before during the investigation. This dramatic turnaround occurred on Tuesday afternoon, October 21st, while the Paris Assize Court was hearing testimony from her ex-partner, Mustafa. At the microphone, facing her former partner, the 27-year-old defendant, Dahbia Benkired, suddenly claimed that she had left the Monan Street residence in Paris' 19th district on October 14, 2022, with the intention of getting revenge on Mustafa. I wanted to hurt him, not little Lola. I never had the chance to say that. He was hurting me so much that I wanted revenge. But I did all that to little Lola. Even though she hadn't done anything, Dahbia Benkired stated. Were you lucid at that moment? The presiding judge asked. I was in a daze, Dahbia Benkired admitted. To tell you the truth, the day before, I took 3 Lyrica, a medication used to treat epilepsy, and that's what put me in that state, the defendant said. The next day, I completely lost it, she continued. Dahbia said she went out into the street. The first person I saw when I went out was little Lola. In fact, the second one. The presiding judge listens, appalled. You wanted to harm Mustafa? What did you intend to do to him? Dahbia Benkired replies, I love him very much. To this day, I still love him. But I wanted to hurt him. I wanted him to see a little of what I feel. He had a gun at home. I thought I would shoot him. On Friday, October 24, 2025, at 5:25 p.m., after 4.5 hours of deliberation, the jury found 27-year-old Dahbia Benkired guilty of the murder of Lola Daviet, a murder preceded or followed by rape and torture. The court described it as an ordeal, an unleashing of hatred and violence. The defendant became the first woman to be sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. Dahbia Benkired had 10 days to appeal. Our client has decided not to appeal for her own reasons. Her decision was made long ago, but we could not disclose it because she had the right to change her mind until the very last moment, given the sentence handed down, her lawyers, Alexandre Valois and Lucille Bertaille, stated. She now wishes to be forgotten. The 27-year-old Algerian woman will therefore not be retried. Her final conviction brings to a close an extraordinary criminal case that shocked all of France. At the trial of Dahbia Benkired, Lola's mother, Delphine Daviet, had asked the court to imprison the monster who had taken her daughter from her for life. "We believed in justice, and we got it," Thibaut Daviet, the 12-year-old girl's brother, told the press after the verdict. "We are relieved to know the final decision of the assize court. Now, Delphine will have to focus on continuing to live with her family," commented Clotilde Loupetit, one of the lawyers for Lola's family. Delphine Daviet said, "It calms me a little, but Lola won't come back. It's me, my son, and my family who have been given a life sentence. It was a relief that, for once, justice went all the way and delivered the verdict we were expecting. On that point, I'm glad to have been heard."